Now, what do you say to some folks who say, well, there are similar outcroppings like this around the world, and they show, see, here's other ones. What's the difference there?
Because this has man-made metal in it that we'll talk about.
That's the difference.
Yes, yes. This has the petrified wood. It's the exact length as stated in the Bible, and it has the man-made metal in it. So there are all these signs pointing to it, you know, as being the real site. This is another image of the curved deck. In the center here, it's symmetrical with the sides splayed outwards. Here's another graphic of it showing the front, the rear, the rib timbers on the sides. It's the exact biblical length.
And the center is filled in just from years and years of things flowing around it.
Some of it is mud, and some of it are the remains, you know, the actual structure. So it's a combination of things. And in the distance here, we can see the bow. Once again, it's a symmetrical point in the top of the photo here.
So we are inside the boat, facing the front.
We're standing kind of in the center of the boat, looking up to the front. And the front was pointed for a reason. The ark needed to be pointed into the waves, to pierce the waves. And
so speaking of which, we have a model of it here on the desk. And, you know, some people might say, well, 6,000 years ago, they didn't have boats like this. Noah's Ark was just a big block, square. So what do we say to that?
Well, I think God helped in the design and probably told Noah, you know, how to build it. It's in a 6-to-1 ratio like modern ocean liners today. It's the length is 6 times the width. So, you know, very well designed. But what we have here in this model is, again, the shape of it. It's got the pointed front, the rounded rear. It has these, off the front of it, these anchor stones that we'll see shortly. These created weight and resistance on the front when the ship was in the heavy waters, and would allow the wind and the waves to push the rear into line with the oncoming waves. This would shift over, the rear would shift, and the front would be pointing into the waves that were coming in. And so the anchor stones were very important. We'll see that a little bit later, where there were these large stones, some of which are 10 feet in height, had holes drilled through them, and ropes through the holes, and then they were attached to the front of the ark. So we see the pointed bow. It's there for a reason, so that the front would pierce the oncoming waves. And in our next photo here, in the distance, you see a large round hole. This is where the 1960 group, they put some dynamite in there and blew out the side of the ark. That wasn't a very gentle excavation.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't exactly a core sample.
Yes,
no.
It was you know, instant excavation, and they believe they didn't see anything, you know, nicely petrified, and left after that. Here's a closer shot of the hole where they blew in the side of the ark. The ground level was up to that point back in 1960, and since then it's dropped quite a bit.
So have any other, well, I guess no excavations have been approved, so nothing else has been dug out of that hole.
Right, out of that hole, that's true, yes. But out of that hole, I was able to climb up in there and take a picture out of it, and you can see this nice view of the valley down below. Now the valley down below at the bottom there is called the Valley of 8, or the region of 8. There were 8 people that came off the ark, and so this area here has the name for the 8 that came off the ark, the Valley of 8, or region of 8.
And the stones, as you've shown me this before, I'm sure we're going to get to it, they're also indicated with markers of 8.
Yes, we'll see 8 crosses on these stones, where early Christians came through and put crosses on the stones. And a lot of times 8 were on the stones for the 8 people that came from the flood. They associated these stones as being with Noah's Ark and part of the flood story. So, quite interesting.
So Ron Wyatt's not the first to suspect such things, nor was the group in 1960.
Right, he's kind of late, actually. Yeah. And again, here is a side of the arc. We can see the rib timbers, the vertical rib timbers on the side of the arc, which again showing a man-made design, man-made construction that would give it a lot of strength, these large vertical ribs. And then here's a close-up of them. Now you can see again it's in poor condition, but there's a rib on the left and a rib kind of in the center here and a rib on the right. But you see the vertical fissures or cracks going up and down, showing where there's separation between the ribs and so forth.
You can see how large they are compared to the hat there at the bottom of the picture.
Yes, right. And then again, here's another photo of the rib timbers. You see the vertical fissures